This is BBC Sussex.
10 minutes past 10 now on BBC Sussex and BBC Surrey. A woman from Hersham in Surrey who has a rare genetic condition is backing a campaign to get the NHS to fund a life-saving treatment for her and other people who are affected. Fiona England has atypical aHUS, and it's a condition that causes small blood vessels to become blocked by blood clots, particularly those vessels which supply blood to the kidneys. It can cause kidney failure, and there's only one treatment for it, a new drug that's currently unavailable on the NHS. 28,000 people have signed a petition calling for that to change, and today it's being presented to MPs outside the Houses of Parliament. So I wonder, have you had to fight to get a particular treatment for your condition? Maybe your child or grandchild has a rare disease and they can't get certain treatments on the NHS. Perhaps you had to go abroad to get those treatments. What's that been like? 03459 570057. Fiona England joins us from our Guildford studios this morning. Hi, Fiona.
Good morning, Danny.
Atypical aHUS, what is that?
Basically, like you explained, it's an ultra-rare condition in which your kidneys suffer. It's autoimmune, so it comes from within the body. In cases like mine, your little clots attack your kidneys and your renal system and has detrimental effects for your kidneys, your whole body and your future, really.
And so is that something that affects you on a day-to-day basis, or you just know it's happening inside you?
Well, until you first present with this condition, you have no idea. But unfortunately, by the time you present, you're very, very unwell, and often the damage is irreparable. And besides the acute stages of the treatment, for me, I take 13 tablets a day to try and control my blood pressure, as well as injections for anemia, and obviously just very close monitoring from the renal consultants. But it's just not knowing when the condition could be triggered again. The active phase is the fear, really. Yeah.
And how poorly were you when you first were diagnosed with it?
I was first diagnosed, I was 27, and I was admitted. I'd spent sort of 10 days in hospital before sort of a provisional diagnosis came through, and I was attached to a machine to have what's known as plasma exchange, where all your circulating blood over 3 litres is taken away from you and sort of flushed through and given you back again. And then the complications of this obviously follow as well, and needing various medication, and it's just the aftermath recovering from that acute illness as well. But more recently, 3 years ago, when I gave birth to our first daughter, I became very, very unwell when she was only 6 weeks old, and basically was admitted there, and my kidney function deteriorated every day, and spent almost a month in hospital, and a further 6 admissions to hospital during my maternity leave.
So a real impact on your life and also the early life of your daughter.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it feels very wrong having your 6-week-old baby visit you in hospital.
Yeah, that's different, isn't it?
Know.
And so tell me about the treatment for this drug that's yet to be approved by NICE, is it?
Yes, the eculizumab drug basically is a lifeline for people with atypical aHUS, and around the country some people have trialled this drug, and it's the difference between sort of being attached to a dialysis machine up to 3 times a week and the impact that has on your everyday life to requiring a drug that is given over 1 to 2 hours, and has to date, as far as I'm aware, no side effects. And basically this would mean that you would not be haunted by this condition, and children could live normal lives and be able to have the energy to play with their friends and go to school, and sort of just not live with this cloud following you around and the fear of what would happen if you were to deteriorate again, because up until now there has been no cure.
Yeah. And Fiona, why just set out for us why you can't have this drug at the moment? Is that because purely it's not approved by NICE, or does cost come into it?
I think it's a combination of things. Basically what happened is a lot of work went in all around the country from a patient point of view, and as well from some of the clinicians and the geneticists that are supporting the approval of this drug. And when I went to Lord Howe in June last year, basically the committee, the aHUS committee that was promoting the sanctioning of this drug happened to dissolve around the same time, so all that work was thrown out and basically passed on to NICE. The recommendation was that we would start the process again. So that's been devastating for the families who basically are, trying to survive and have no future. And
I said it's a reasonably rare condition. Do you know how many people have atypical aHUS?
As far as I'm aware, there's around 300 that are recorded in the UK, but even at that, there's sort of only maybe 100 people or so in the support group. So there's a lot of. So
you are few and far between, aren't you?
Yeah, but we're determined, and we feel we deserve it. I mean, our daughter, my daughter is 3, and my husband and I have to face the fact that she may have this condition, and we don't know how you tell a 3-year-old that there's medicine there, but she can't have it. That could basically, change our lives.
Are you more worried for her than you?
Yeah, definitely. You don't really think about yourself when it comes to your children, and everybody wants what's best for their children, really. So we just hope we wouldn't wish this on anybody, but the fear is always there. And I lost a sister myself to this condition, so my parents had to go through it, and then they had to go through it again, 20 years later with me. Mm-hmm. So we don't want that to happen for anybody else.
As you sit here today, how do you feel today?
I feel hopeful but fearful at the same time, because it was such a letdown last year when, the drug wasn't approved, basically. So I just hope that I can make a difference, and that people listening out there will support us.
And health-wise, how do you feel today? I mean, do you feel, have you got lots of energy today? Are you feeling...
I'm a bit croaky. I've just got a sore throat, which has nothing to do with it. But, I feel okay. I mean, I have bad days and good days. I take a lot of medication, and I'm always sort of battling with anemia, and the side effects of the medication. So, but, I mean, I feel, optimistic today, and I suppose just put all my energy into, hoping this will go well, so.
And the 28,000 people who signed your petition, are you part of the delivery party taking that up to the House of Parliament?
I'm not today, no, but I'm thinking of them and wish them all the best, obviously, and be watching Parliament TV later, hopefully, as well, so...
Fiona, I wish you well. Thank you for joining us today on the programme. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Many thanks. Fiona England in our Guildford studios. Listening to that is health commentator Roy Lilly from Camberley, who used to chair an NHS trust. Roy, hello.
Good morning.
And this sanctioning of new drugs, is it always going to be, very unfair on some people like Fiona?
Well... Look, we have to put a rationale behind the use of resources. That's the problem. And sometimes it means saying yes, and sometimes it means saying no. In this particular case, as you've established, it's a very, very rare condition. And it used to be looked after by a group that delighted in the name of aHUS, and that stood for Advisory Group for Special Services. And they used to look at these very esoteric drugs for very rare diseases. And they actually had a look at this drug that delights in the name of eculizumab, and said, yes, it works. But unfortunately, along came the coalition with its reforms to the healthcare system, and aHUS is no more, and its work now has been taken over by the National Institute for Health and Clinical Excellence, so-called NICE. Mm-hmm. NICE could adopt the work that's been done by aHUS, but for some reasons that I just don't understand, they're not, and they want to start again. The original report from aHUS that went to ministers said, well, we're not convinced it's value for money. And here's the problem. This is a very, very rare drug. Used hardly at all anywhere in the world. It costs over £3,000 a shot. And if you look after a patient on it for a year, it's going to cost about £400,000.
And there are 300 people, as Fiona said, with this condition. So that's £500,000 per person per year times 300.
Yeah.
What price of life and what price improving somebody's life then?
This is where you get into a very difficult territory. Now, NICE, the National Institute for Clinical Excellence, do have a formula. It's very arcane, I won't go into it, but it's called Quality Adjusted Life Years, and they put a financial ceiling on how much they'd spend to get a year of extra life. This drug clearly won't get anywhere near that ceiling. It is hugely expensive and will have to be looked at entirely separately, which, as I say, was the work of this specialist services group.
So what do we tell somebody like Fiona?
Pardon?
What do we tell someone like Fiona? I'm sorry, you're not worth nearly £500,000 a year.
Well, this is the problem, isn't it? And unfortunately, because the NHS works in a cash-strapped, cash envelope, We have to put a rationale behind resources, and some people have the ability to have the treatments and some don't. I mean, there are alternative treatments that Fiona was telling us about which are horrible.
And she's on her 13 tablets a day at the moment.
I know, it's a nightmare. But you know, how can we, or should we? I mean, it'd be very interesting to know what your listeners think this morning, really. Should we spend £400,000 a year on this very esoteric and very rare drug? These are the moral and ethical dilemmas that face health service managers all the time. You have to make a decision, one treatment over another. I think the issue here for me is not that decisions have to be made, because I think everybody sensibly understands that. But I don't understand why NICE are going to take what is effectively another year to arrive at a conclusion when really they could adopt the work of the previous
Right. So there's something there that's, well, perhaps we'll just park that because we don't know the answer to that. I'm just wondering whether, you know, this drug, okay, you say it's £3,000 a shot. The drug company who developed it, it's obviously cost them a lot of money to develop it. Is there no way of making the drug itself cheaper?
Well, there are two things we could do. One, we could say to the drug company, we'll only pay you if it works, but I think the NHS would be on a loser there because we know it does work. And the other thing is a much more, it's a much bigger ask. And that is, you know, you can copyright a popular song for 50 years, but you can only patent a life-saving drug for 20. So that means that whoever it is that develops these drugs, and they take 14, 15 years to develop, I mean, they are very, very, very difficult things to develop. It means they've only got then, at the end of the patent life, 4 or 5 years to get all that investment back.
Right, so that's why it's not, I mean, yes, they'll make some profit, and probably a handsome one at that, but it's about recouping their investment in the research and development, and then making sure they've made their profit before it then becomes, you know, able for other people to manufacture it. Yes,
you've hit the nail on the head. And, you know, people say, oh, well, they're going to make a profit. But unless they do make a profit, they can't invest in other drugs. And this particular drug has got an interesting history. It was what was called an orphan drug for some time. That meant it was a drug for which there was no obvious application. And it was only when they had a second look at it that they found what it could do for this very, very small group of patients. So, this absolutely typifies the difficulties that you have in making rationing decisions. It is very tough.
Roy, thank you, as always, for your great insight. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Bye for now. There's Roy Lilly from Campbell. He used to be the chair of an NHS trust. Be interested to hear your thoughts on this. Do you have to fight to get treatment for some conditions? Has that happened in your family, much like Fiona was telling us? 03459 570057. Maybe you've had to go abroad to get the kind of treatments that you couldn't get here. What's that experience like? 81333, our text number. Start your message with the word radio. danny.pike@bbc.co.uk is my email. And would you like to, who'd want the job of being in the position to have to take those decisions on, you say, you look at the financial equation of it, you say, wow, that's going to cost us that much money, and there's this many people with that condition. No, I'm sorry, that's too expensive. I mean, that's a tough choice for anybody to have to make, isn't it? 03459 570057. Give me a call.